Welcome to the straight up, no bullshit, the Don Handston Show. Our hosts are going to push the limits, but create an environment where it's safe to uncover the crap that holds you back so you can survive the mediocrity of today's life. And they'll be admitting and revealing their own experiences so you can learn the skills and attitude you need to be who you are. No bullshit. Warning to all listeners: if you have thin skin and get offended easily by harsh, direct, or somewhat offensive content and language, then this podcast may be overwhelming. However, we believe pulling your blinders off and viewing things from a real perspective may feel invigorating and may be the very thing that may cause you to expand your capabilities exponentially. Now here's your hosts, Don and Markus.
Welcome everybody to Straight Up No Bullshit. We are glad you're here. We got a phenomenal episode coming up. We have our very first guest, Dr. Steve Spencer, who's a naturopathic physician, and we're excited to have him here. Don, good to see you, my friend.
Hello, guys.
Dr. Steve, welcome to the show. We appreciate you being here. So yeah, we're really glad you're all here, and we have a great conversation lined up. So Dr. Steve, tell us what a naturopathic physician is and what are the things
I'm actually kind of a very unique naturopathic doctor. Naturopathic doctors deal with holistic medicine, so they try to find balance in the body through a healthy lifestyle of nutrition and maybe doing IVs, breath work, forms of natural health. But I look at things holistically, and I look at emotions on a subconscious level. They cause epigenetic expression and lead to illness. And I look at posture, and I also look at nutrition and blood work and functional labs. I look for heavy metals, or I look for viruses or bacteria that have been dormant, that are still, not showing up necessarily in lab tests, but they are still having an impact on the immune system. So I dig a little bit deeper than what you would say the traditional naturopath. But I still look at the patient holistically.
Absolutely. It sounds like you look at the whole patient,
right.
All aspects of them. Now, you used the word there, epigenetic. I'm not sure I'm saying that correctly. A lot of our listeners might not know what that is. Can you tell us what that is?
Epigenetics are inheritance that we get from our ancestors that carry over to our expression of illness. So in other words, when you talk about epigenetics, let's just say you had a great-grandparent that was in the Holocaust and lived in a state of fear. That state of fear is carried over into your genes and an expression of how you live your life, and it can affect your health in strange ways that you're not even aware of.
Interesting. Can you give us an example on that?
So if we go back to a Holocaust survivor, they lived in a state of terror and fear. And so in a state of terror or fear,
Sure.
If that's running in your DNA on a subconscious level, fear always tends to be in the bladder meridian. So it could be chronic bladder infections. It could be in the kidneys, because the kidneys are there. So you may have issues with, I don't want to say gout. Gout's more, it was gallbladder, but with uric acid buildup, kidney stones. Right. And so those could be manifestations that aren't necessarily your trauma, but ancestral trauma. But the great thing is that we can overcome those with our belief systems. We don't have to be the prisoner to our ancestors.
Right. Change your belief system. Right.
Right.
That's interesting because I kind of experienced that a little bit, not for myself, but my parents. My mother escaped from Russia or Estonia during when the Russians and the Nazis invaded. So that's interesting that you say that because she did pass away from lymphoma at a young age of 41. And I think a lot of that had to do with the fear and trauma of what they experienced. Being a 8-year-old, 9-year-old, having to flee on foot and on boat to survive for your life. So to know that you can actually overcome those things with your belief systems is pretty amazing.
I mean, one of the best stories I have is about a patient who had cervical cancer. And, I got a phone call from her husband and said, can you help my wife? She has surgery tomorrow to remove a tumor, and I don't know that we want to go through the surgery. And I said, I'll do what I can. So when I went through and I worked with her, what we found out actually was that her mother at 8 years old had told her that she didn't want her. And so there was shame being held in the cervix.
Wow.
And so the cervix itself is shame, and in the male it would be the prostate. So that was held there, And what we did is we transformed her belief system to, I was supposed to be here. I'm a divine expression of God. I'm a light being manifest in the physical matter. And I have a purpose. I belong. And through that, then, the next day he called me and he said, "You're not going to believe this." He goes, "She had a basketball-sized tumor that disappeared, and the doctors did a biopsy, and they can't find any cancer." So,
That's
I mean,
amazing.
and I have more of the stories than that. I mean, it just goes on and on and on, right? And that's where we don't want to take the victim approach, where it's poor me, I have this illness. The universe is communicating with us with this in this strange way that I call the love language of the universe. And so we want to be grateful. They're gifts and strange.
Right.
Disease in the mind becomes disease in the body, but disease is a gift in strange wrapping paper that we don't understand how to interpret. And so as we learn to interpret the messages the universe is giving us, disease can't thrive. You aren't a host for that disease anymore. You're in a new energetic frequency, and the energy just flows through our body.
I think where the first thing falls into play is, I completely agree, because I've been seeing Dr. Steve for maybe a couple years now. Helped me dramatically with a lot of the belief system that I didn't even know that I had, because it was more on a subconscious level. But I will tell you that the where it starts and where it ends is we have to believe that we're the creator of our life. And we're not just the impact of everything that's going on.
Not just believe, but know, because knowing is stronger than believing.
Right. You have think, believe. Know is the ultimate.
Right.
Once you know, nothing can supersede that.
Correct. And here's how the system actually works. So your subconscious mind is the inverse of the solar system. So when we look at how the galaxies are lined up and the way that the stars align and the energy moves through the planets, which you can call astrology, and you look at the subconscious mind and the way the neurons fire in the brain, they're the mirror. It's an inverse. So what happens is you have this imprint in the universe. That's our fate that's going to happen to us. That's the things we're going to manifest into our life. Destiny is what you do with those. So we can transform fate. Your thoughts are so powerful. They transform cataclysmic events. So you can actually shifting stars and galaxies far away with your thoughts. That's how powerful you are. So what happens then is we have this negative belief system. Let's say a belief system that all relationships are struggle and compromise. That's what you're going to get in your life. So then what happens is you have this belief system within your mind, and then you have the DNA. And your DNA is the antenna to the universe. And so that's picking up that receptor. Then that DNA tells your cells how to vibrate. And the cell is actually the capacitor for the energy. And the mitochondria within the cell has the electron transport chain that moves the electrons. And so now you have the Merkaba at the base of the spine, and that's the resistor that resists the flow of life up the spine through the cerebral spinal fluid in the pineal gland that gives you the intuition. So it's this whole intricate system that as we change our thoughts and beliefs, that shows channels open up and the electrons move. And when electrons can't move, it's called reductive stress, and it leads to excess reactive oxygen species and decline within the cell function, and that's disease. So all I've done is put all the pieces together.
So in my opinion, Dr. Steve, like, his intellect is beyond mine. I'm a very simplistic thinker, but excuse me, what he says is absolutely correct. He just knows how to explain it better than somebody like me. But you need to have that flow. You need to have the flow through the things that I've worked on with Steve, and a lot of it's got to do with your like you said, your posture, your spinal cord, and then it goes into your internal organs where you hold a lot of these, like you said, belief systems. A lot of things that you're holding inside isn't necessarily between ears. A lot of it is internal. Would you agree with that, Steve?
Well, I mean, you're not your body. You're the thing running it. You're a spiritual being just having a human experience, right? And so the experience that you're having here is just the illusion of reality. And that's why as you change your beliefs and you open up to your heart center, becoming mind-heart coherent, diseases can't exist any longer. Because I don't believe in the germ theory. I believe in the disconnection from love theory. So in other words, what that means is If you're in the right vibrational
Mm-hmm.
frequency, there's no pathogen that's going to be able to be opportunistic. There's no virus, there's no bacteria, there's no mold, yeast, there's no fungus that can impact you. It cannot survive in your body. You're at too high of an elevated level of frequency that those things are not hosts. But those things are actually gifts. So when you get COVID or you get a bacterial infection, like, you want to look at that instead of like the rest of the world saying, this sucks, I'm sick, I don't feel good, being like, thank you. There's something I'm missing in my life that I need to change. And I have the opportunity now to make this conscious shift into ascension to what is true to our own hearts, which is the frequency of love, that we were these light beings manifested into physical matter with infinite potential, that God is within inside you. God is not outside of you. He is within inside you, and you're creating just as he has.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that, people say that, we're made in the image and the likeness, but it's really because we are,
Correct.
we're co-creators.
Correct.
Without a doubt.
Without a doubt. Here's my belief system on all of this, and I don't want to get too much into God and everything else, but we are all, number one, we're spiritual beings, and my belief is we're as much God as we allow into us, right? As much as we allow him into us, the more we become like him. Okay. And so, that's why it's about doing the right thing. It's about being positive. It's about helping people. It's about doing the right things that are actually fulfilling for you, rather than, like I talked about, people chase the messed universe for things that they think are going to bring them happiness.
You know what the meaning?
And so I believe that.
You know what the meaning of the universe is?
Tell us.
There is none. You're making it. You're making it all up.
We're making it all up as we go along. Absolutely.
The pen and the paper, and make
right. There is none.
Make your own creation, right?
So if your goal is to help people, and that's how you see finding meaning, then that's what it is. If your goal is to sit at home and be a hermit and be disconnected from everything, cool. Like, there's no wrong journey. The only thing that matters is that you're holding the vibration of love in your heart. And different people have different purposes, because the reason I say that is you're helping people without your knowing, just your existence, because your thoughts and beliefs are so powerful. They transform planets and galaxies and stars and galaxies far away, shifting, cosmic events or cosmic destruction, or, like, there's been Buddhist monks who have just meditated on world peace. That's all they did. They wanted world peace. They meditated. There's been periods of time where there was world peace, just because that was their pure intention that they put out into the field, out into the ether. So there's whatever you want to create, there's nothing wrong with how you're doing it.
Yeah, no, we talked on the last episode, we were talking about Dr. Emoto's work with water, and how they would have Buddhist monks literally praying and meditating over a dead lake and bringing that lake back to life and cleansing it, and being able to see the difference between the frozen water crystals. And it's, if you think about it, if we can affect that, we can affect anything.
So what's interesting about Dr. Emoto's work?
What's that?
Is that he talked about the water molecules and how they change.
Right.
With emotion and with sound. But your body's 85 to 90% water. So in that case, in a place of fear, resentment, sadness, worry, and doubt, that's the frequency you're vibrating on. Energy doesn't move, right? So it's not, you don't have the catalyst for that energy to move through your body. So you need to be hydrated, but then on top of, what's the frequency that you're emitting? Not consciously, but subconsciously, because the subconscious mind is 98% of our thought.
Right. So what would you say are some mantras, affirmations, things that you can self-talk, you can tell yourself to help with creating the kinds of beliefs that can facilitate
So
health?
what's interesting is that expectations lead to suffering, and there's divine timing on everything. And what you have to understand is that since your thoughts are powerful, the universe is going to align you with those thoughts in time. Don't put pressure on it. So basically, sadness and anxiety and resentment and frustration are all speeding tickets for lack of trust in wanting to speed up the universe's divine timing. It's the speeding ticket for impatience, right? And if you are doubtful, the universe will not provide it for you. If you give up hope, the universe, we can go into the Bible and the book of Job and how much faith he had, and everything was restored to him because he had faith. He trusted, and he came back 10 times stronger, more children, more wealth, he had farms, more farms, right? So his agricultural business grew, and he had more, even though he lost everything. It was all taken away from him. But you have no idea the conversations that are going on behind your back in that relationship that it was taken away from you. You have no idea the friendships that you thought you had were saying behind your back. The universe is directing you in a pathway that's more suited in alignment for you. But we take judgment on the situation.
Right.
And it's through the judgment and the control that we have that creates the suffering. And then it puts us in this downward spiral where it just creates more and more suffering, and then you manifest in illness. And the universe is saying, hey, we love you. Change your belief systems and put your faith in us, because the faith of a mustard seed makes the impossible possible.
Absolutely. I would say that you need to get out of the way of the universe. Don't tell the universe how to do it. Share what you want, share what you're wise, but don't get caught in the cursed house, because if you start saying, it's got to be this, this, and this, and this, but if that's not the right path that the universe you're going to be stuck. Whereas the outcomes that you were looking for could be this over here, but and the universe will take you there. But if you get stuck in those places, or you have the doubt or whatever, you're stuck. You can't let the universe do what it's supposed to there to do.
Feeling the emotion as if it's already happened. So this is what I want to experience, and this is how I feel. Cool, universe, bring it to me. Right. I don't care how it happens. This is how I want to. This is not how I want to feel. This is how I feel today. This is how I feel today, and I'm having these experiences. Right? It's almost fake it till you make it.
Right. Or visualize it till you see it.
So I'm gonna switch gears a little bit here, and I'm gonna say, and we've all talked about this before, is you know how you have the answers, or you know how to do things that you didn't learn how to do in this life. You're not sure how you know, but you know sometimes you can do it to perfection. Sometimes you have answers to education that you've never, the things that people don't even believe, with the current education environment. And when I talk to Dr. Steve, I tell him there's a lot of stuff that I know how to do, and there's a lot of answers that I have no idea how I know. And Dr. Steve had mentioned that it's the Akashic records, and we all have access. We just have to know how to have access. So, Dr. Steve, would you like to share any information on that?
I mean, the Akashic records is a record of everything that's happened in all times, and so it's our karma that just exists in the ether, right? Or in astrology. That's really all the Akashic records are. So we are, that is your fate, right? You're going to attract these situations, but they're not prison sentences. It's just a lesson, not a prison sentence. So as we pay attention to the world around us, and a lot of people's meditation, they have a certain practice that they do for meditation. But the way I look at things is, when I wake up in the morning, and the first thing I'm doing is saying, okay, what happened yesterday? How would I do it differently? And what are the perceptions around me with the interactions with people? How do I want to choose to feel? Did I make this act? Did I react to this person's hate and anger correctly? Could I have handled it differently? Right. So I just reflecting on, what it is that I did and how I could have done it better to make the impact I desire or want to have in the world.
That's a great explanation, because our whole podcast is about betterment. How do you take what's going on in the world and make our lives better?
I don't pay attention to what's happening around in the world. There's evil, there's hatred, there's wars, right, going on in the world. World War III is about to blow up, possibly. And none of that's my concern, because a courageous man wants to change the world, but a wise man begins with himself. So I can't go over to Israel and make a big impact. And then me going over there and killing people, an eye for an eye makes both men blind, does nothing, right? But what I can do is focus on being the man that I want to be and doing the right thing, create a positive ripple effect into the world. Because as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree. I agree that goodness spreads, right? Paying it forward, goodness spreads, positivity spreads. Whatever you put out there, okay, spreads, like you said,
Yep.
through, on a
It lights the
subconscious
candle and
level,
it
a
just continues to
spiritual
pass
level,
on.
and
But
exactly.
here, it's not
So
about just doing good deeds. It's not just
starts.
about paying for the coffee and the guy in the line behind you in the drive-through, right? That's a nice thing. But I'm saying it's about changing your thoughts and your beliefs, and that has a bigger impact into the ripple effect because we're all really connected. So your thoughts, since they change planetary alignment, actually have an impact on the world around you.
Right, and everything.
That's interesting.
We talked about this in a different podcast, but we talk about how thoughts, right?
Mm-hmm.
Thoughts create words. Words create actions. Actions create character. So you have to go back to your thoughts, and you have to, like Dr. Steve says, you have to change your belief system in order to change your thoughts. Because if you change your thoughts, everything else will fall in line with your thoughts. Would you agree with that?
The universe will provide you with your frequency. Your vibe attracts your tribe.
That's true. That's true. Would you say that a good way? I've always thought of it this way. You have to have a thought, but it's not just the thoughts. With the thoughts, you have to focus on it and have the vision towards what it is, those things that you're thinking of.
Well, you also have to understand that you're talking about thoughts, which is your conscious thought, and the subconscious mind is 98% of your thought. So the trick is to just have the thought, let the universe bring you what it's going to bring you, and don't judge the situation, and just decide to take radical responsibility for the events that are happening in your life and the people that you're attracting, and saying, I have something going in my subconscious. This happened for a reason, and finding the meaning of that. And that's what I do for patients. I help them find the meaning to the pain, fears, and challenges of life, helping them transcend through them to ascend to a higher level to create the money, the love, and the health that they desire in their life. Because those are the three things everybody really wants. They're superficial.
Right.
But the whole secret to having money, love, and health is to be unattached to it because the universe is providing it for you. You always were worthy and deserving of that.
Right.
You always had what it is that you're trying to achieve. And that's the problem. And I talked about that before. As I said, a lot of people, they aspire for money. But what they really aspire for is what that money creates for them, what they think that it creates for them. And so
Right.
So if you skip that chain in the link and you go and you know that you've already have what it is that you need, you don't need to go through all of these same processes that everybody else goes through because you're the person with the pen, you're the person with the paper, and you're the person that writes what it is that you want in life. Would you agree with that?
Well, when you understand that the world is an illusion, and it's just a reflection of your thoughts, none of it really matters that much anyway, because you can create it. Now, it seems very real to people, but if we look at consciousness in a different aspect, to where like everything has consciousness, even rocks, right? They all have a vibrational resonance. That means there's consciousness. They contain electrons, so there's energy. So, but we only perceive other humans as having consciousness because we can interact with them. We perceive animals as having consciousness because we can interact with them. But the rock we don't perceive as conscious because it doesn't interact with anything. It doesn't move. But it does have consciousness.
Right.
And it does have an impact because it has those, because it contains the electrons. So where we break that down is when you send an email, you don't know why the email goes through. You have no idea why the email goes through. And it's actually going through. There's a series of resistors and diodes that are there happening behind the scenes that you don't understand. And that operating system understands it, but your operating system doesn't understand it. So in other words, your operating system can't register with the rock. It's not on that level. So that's what consciousness is. It's understanding that there's the interconnection in there, and the world's just this illusion. You don't have to understand it totally, but it's an illusion that you're creating that feels very real. Pain, you cut yourself and it feels very real.
Well, it's interesting. The rock, I mean, everything's vibration. Everything has a vibration. The rock just vibrates at a slower frequency than what we normally do. At least that's how it's been always translated to me as far as those things. Like this table that my computer's sitting on, it's mostly empty matter. It's at such a frequency, it feels solid.
So in matter, you have protons and you have electrons that make up neutrons, and they all hold a charge. They're electromagnetically holding those particles together. And that's what creates it to be hard, right? That's what creates it to have the form of matter it has, solid, liquid, gas, or plasma. And so it's that charge that's there causing that vibrational frequency. That's all that it is. You change the frequency of it. You change matter.
So
love it.
here's an interesting thought. One thing that I've learned in life, because there's a lot of things that I don't understand how they work. I learned that you don't have to know how they work. You just have to understand how to utilize that. For instance, computer and technology. I don't have a clue how this stuff works. I don't care. I know how to use it at a very basic level. But that's just a quick explanation for it. But the problem is that people think that they need to understand, like you had mentioned, the internet. They're so fixated on how does it work? How did I put that thought into the air and it wound up at your house, on your computer, in your office? Okay. And that's why I think people get lost in the understanding of things, because they're trying to understand things that they can't understand instead of understanding the things that they can understand. And you get too caught up in trying to figure out all the different things, you lose sight with reality. You lose sight with what is really important.
Don, you're the perfect example of it. Don, you're the perfect example of that. You don't understand what the law of attraction and the chemistry and the physics of it all. You just know it works, and so you do it. You can have this Neanderthal mind, knowing that somehow it works. It does. I don't got to understand it. Who cares? I get the result that I want.
Right.
Yeah, I am a Neanderthal. I don't care. It works, I'm in. It don't work, I'm out. That's it. I don't care about the rest of this shit, you know? I agree with that, you know?
And if you focus on things, you know, like we talked this before, you don't judge anything. Don't call it right or wrong. Does it serve you? Does it not serve you? Does it serve you to, you know, to have the intentions, you know, use thought, vision, emotion, and action to manifest your reality? Great. But if you don't, you know, it's not going to happen for you. That's just the result.
The best thing you can do possible is just follow your heart, right?
Mm-hmm.
If it doesn't feel right, it's not for you. You just don't do it. The universe is guiding you, and people just shut down their intuition to not listening to their own heart, right? And then they get bad belief systems in their mind, and they follow their mind, not their heart. And it always gets them in trouble.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The mind is deceiving.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're right. When you're doing something that you shouldn't be doing, right?
It blows up in your face.
Whether it's something that impacts your betterment, whether it's something that creates toxicity, whatever it is, you have that feeling. You have that feeling, and you know that you shouldn't be doing it. But yet, I think a lot of people are like, well, when I go against that feeling, it's like an adrenaline rush. And I think that's why people do a lot of the really stupid shit that they do that affects them adversely, is because it's almost like like an adrenaline high, you know what I mean? And I understand that, because I used to do all kinds of crazy shit that I shouldn't have done, and that's why I'm in the condition I'm in, but whatever. But, and that's how I met Dr. Steve, because I could barely walk. Would you agree with that, Steve? When I met you, I could barely walk.
You could barely walk. You had a lot of mechanical issues. Yeah.
Yes. And it was all from stupidity. It was all from that adrenaline rush. Oh, you know what? I could take this jump on a snowboard or motorcycle or all the stupid shit.
And that's another belief that the people have. They're told that if you have bone-on-bone arthritis, that you need surgery. And that's not the case. 100% of orthopedic issues are correctable, and cartilage actually regenerates. You don't have to have surgery. Now you can have a, you know, prosthetic put in and you know, do a knee replacement or a hip replacement or a shoulder replacement, whatever joint's worn out, but it's not necessary. If you have the patience and the time, your body heals itself when you correct the mechanics and put yourself in the right frame of mind. But if your belief system is that cartilage doesn't regenerate, I can't get better, you won't get better. 100% you will not get better. You believe that you can't get better. You believe that and some people, they actually have a belief system, I deserve to suffer. In religion, they teach you human beings are sinners by thought, word, and deed. I'm an evil person. I need a God outside of me to save me. Right? And automatically you're a prisoner denying your own power.
Well, it's the sins of the father passed down 7 generations. You know, the word sin means missing the mark. It was an archery term. You know, it just means you missed a mark. I mean, but all the judgment, you're right. All that judgment and the belief system that people have been, you know, it's been passed down from one generation to one generation. I tell people, you know, you can believe whatever you want to. You don't have to believe the religion that you were brought up to believe. You can choose to what you want to believe. Now that goes against a lot of the grain for most people, and that's, oh my God, that's sacrilege. You can't say that. Of course you can.
Mm-hmm.
We live in a creative universe.
Well, it's kind of like I've talked about before. It's that thing called heaviness, right? Something that people own, and if you listen to the words that people say, right? And people are going to get very mad when they hear this, but let's call it cancer, okay? They own it. My cancer is really bothering me. Well, the thing is that if they own it, it's something that they have. It's called heaviness. It fills a void, and they have it for probably a subconscious reason, like Dr. Steve had mentioned. But the thing is as soon as they let go of that heaviness, as soon as they don't see that it serves them, and they don't want this in their life, and they no longer put their energy into it, it evaporates the energy out of it. And I know a lot of people are going to be pissed when they hear me say this, because they're like, you don't understand. And you know what? Okay, I don't understand at your level, and you don't understand at my level. Again, it goes with, we all don't have to agree, but we have to make a conscious choice to change our belief system if we want to get.
Do you know what the number one emotional reason behind all cancer is?
Yep.
The number one, not every case, but the number one reason.
What is
The
that?
person who gives and gives and gives and feels like nobody does anything for them, and they have the victim mentality that, woe is me, I give and nobody does anything for me. That's the number one reason for cancer on an emotional level. And there's biochemical things in the environment as far as our environment is conduced, and we can get into that. But the number one reason emotionally is that victim approach where nobody does anything for me, and I have to give to others, and I'm just left out, and they just feel drained.
So would you call that resentment?
It could lead to resentment, but it doesn't have to be. I mean, it may be a belief system that's there of,
Wow.
I'm not worthy. I have to neglect myself to help others. I mean, if your belief system is like, I have to give to others and be a good person, it doesn't matter if I get left out. You sacrifice your own health and your own needs for everyone else.
Right.
You let yourself go because other people are more important than you. And if you let yourself go, you have nothing left to give anybody else.
Right. That's true. If you don't take care of yourself.
Yeah, I mean, there's a balance there. We want to be good people and give to others, but until you're financially stable in a place where you understand yourself and love yourself and accept yourself, how do you have anything to give to anybody else? Because we don't want to be needy and demand things from others. There's nothing outside of you. We want to be whole and complete and be stable and have everything there, and then we can offer the help to others.
Well, it goes to such a simplistic level. When you get on an airplane, before you take off, they say, "Hey, listen, if the plane drops, right, make sure you have the mask will drop. Make sure you have your mask on, and then once it's on and secure, then take the mask and put it on your child." It's kind of the same theory applies. Like, take care of yourself, and then you are capable of taking care of the others around you.
Yep. You can't love other people unless you love yourself.
And here's another thing that I really want to cover for people. And we talk about energy and physics and how our thoughts change our environment. But I want to cover, our environment that we live in, because that's changing our energy too. And our nature was designed in a way to support us. If we were in a negative frame of mind, nature has a way to sopping up those excess electrons that are building up, causing a reactive oxygen species, leading to illness. So, in other words, sunlight's a modulator of that. But being in an environment of EMFs and being in an environment of blue light, excessive blue light, is not conducive to our health. We need to get back to nature and being outside, away from the electromagnetic fields and away from blue light, and getting sunlight. And this all works on a bioenergetic level, because what happens is they work synergistically, and also the foods that we take in. Okay. So where I'm going with all this is that when we take in toxic seed oils, processed seed oils, and this excessive amount of linoleic acid that's in there, so these omega-6 fats that are in these refined seed oils, what ends up happening is it creates unbound iron, or actually lowers hepcidin in our livers, creating unbound iron, and causes your body to rust from the inside out. And when this oxidative damage occurs, it lowers your thyroid hormone.
Right.
So now our energy levels are depleted. because your thyroid levels are low, and then we can't make hormones. And then you add the fact that now we know these seed oils are bad. We're eating these things, but then we go out and we're on our cell phones and we're next to 5G towers that drive intracellular iron and calcium into the cell, creating more reactive oxygen species, pulling the copper out. So when we look at what's going on, we're eating seed oils, we're getting blasted with blue light, we're getting blasted with EMF, and it's doing all this oxidative damage that leads to all the ailments people are suffering from: heart disease, cancer, diabetes, dementia, Alzheimer's. Those diseases are what are elevated in the public. And we see them at rampant cases, but we're so disconnected from nature. So our thoughts are powerful, and they change physics, but the environment we're putting ourselves in is pushing this illness as well.
Would you say that grounding would help?
Grounding absolutely would help with some of that, because when you get outside and you put your feet in the ground, you're actually dumping some of those excess electrons into the earth.
Right.
Take your shoes off, put your feet in the ground, take your shirt off, take your pants off, put some shorts on, go get some sun.
That's why I come down. That's why I make sure I come down to Florida once a month at least to go get sunlight and get outside barefoot. I have no shoes on, and I probably should have done the podcast with my shirt off, but
you scare people. Scare people.
You know what? We're okay. We accept all. We don't judge nothing.
Nah, there's no judgment.
Fuck them if they can't handle it.
Yeah. There's no judgment. But maybe the next podcast, you be on the beach with your shirt off.
We want to show people the lifestyle they want to live. You know what I mean? Like, we want to lead by example. So,
absolutely.
But yeah, I'm outside. I'm barefoot. And that's how we want to live our life. We want to live more in nature and get away from the big cities. The more we get away from the big cities, the more we're going to see a return to our health.
Absolutely.
And the less stress that we're going to have.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? I mean, like, when you work and live in the big cities, you're working to basically make money, survive, buy fancy cars and homes, and impress the neighbors. When you're out in the nature, you're hunting, you're surviving, you're gathering, you're moving, you're doing all the things we're really meant to do. And we just need to go back to nature.
Absolutely.
Agreed.
Without a doubt.
Agreed.
I was talking to a good friend of mine. You guys know him, Kevin Purcell, and talking about tree hugging. He's like, in the wintertime, grounding. How do you go outside in the winter and put your feet in the ground? But you can hug a tree. You can sit on a rock. You can pull electrons from all those places. So it's just about getting out there and surrounding yourself in an environment that supports you, that serves you. And this has been a great conversation. I appreciate that. So Dr. Steve, you actually practice here in the Chicagoland area as well as in Florida, correct? That's fantastic. I think I'd rather see you in Florida for a treatment than here in Chicago. So
I don't blame you.
Yeah,
I'd rather see you here too.
Yeah, you've been super helpful in helping me. When my dad was suffering and he eventually passed away last year. You helped me to get those thoughts and what those things those belief systems that I had going on, and made those shifts. So I really appreciate that very much. Welcome. So this has been a great conversation. I appreciate you being here, and Don, as always, our conversations are great. We appreciate it. We hope our listeners got a little bit out of it. Even if you get one golden nugget or two golden nuggets out of it that can change your world, change your life, it's all worth it. So
a lot of people have a hard time and struggling with change and changing their life. Just go outside in nature and get some sunlight. It'll do you a lot of good and bring clarity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Start small. I tell people, garbage in, garbage out. Unplug from the TV, unplug from all the news media. Start listening to some good audiobooks. Listen to, we need to get you creating a book for us, guys. I always recommend Greg Braden or Rhonda Byrne or Mike Dooley or Dr. Dane Wire, Dr. Wayne Dyer.
The book will come when I find a publisher that wants me to put it out there. I'm not putting the effort in until somebody says, we want you to do this. I don't want another job of marketing.
Well, maybe
I like freedom.
Someone will see this.
Oh God, another cost.
That's true.
Right?
Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah. If somebody asks me to do it, says, "Hey, we want to put your book out there," I'm all in. But I'm not doing it until somebody says we want you to, and we're gonna put it out there, market it, and do all this for you. I'm like, great.
Yeah.
Well, I think once you decide and make that decision, you want that to happen.
That's correct.
The universe will provide it. Absolutely. I love it. Well, this has been fantastic. We appreciate you being here. Thank you so much. For our listeners and those that are watching this on Rumble and YouTube, like us, share this with people that you think would get a lot out of it. Share it, get the word out, help us spread the word, because that's really what it's all about. It's about betterment. It's about how do we help and better our fellow man and women around the world We do it one conversation at a time, one thought at a time. So we appreciate it. Smash the likes. We appreciate it. Again,
Thanks
Dr. Steve, thank you so much. Don, thank you. Absolutely. We appreciate you. And until next time, we'll see you next time on Straight Up No Bullshit. Cheers.
See you guys.
Thank you for tuning in to the Straight Up No Bullshit, the Don Handston Show. We hope we enlightened you and expanded your perspectives with our bold and honest discussions about what might be holding you back from being your genuine self. And with a simple click to subscribe, we'll invite you back to the next episode. If you want to know more, go to straightupnobullshit.com. We'll see you next time.